working with dreams is coming back to your own inner intelligence. And so when you start working with dreams, healing becomes something that you can consciously and actively participate rather than try to outsource from someone else. Even people that don't lucid dream can really empower themselves. They can really introduce new skills in their waking lives, and they can change the repetitive thought patterns that they might have created in their subconscious.
Welcome to Mind Shastra, a podcast where we explore human consciousness, where we talk about topics that bridge science and spirituality, and most importantly, we talk about topics that you need at this very moment for your evolution. Today, we have Micol with us. Micol is a plant medicine integration coach and a Dreamwork coach. With a background in ethnobotany, herbalism, and somatics, she guides her clients through dream work and plant medicine journeys. I'm so excited to have Micol here. Even before I started this podcast, I wanted somebody here who can talk about dreams. Dreams have been a very significant part of my life since childhood, and especially since I started my spiritual journey. Micol here is based out of Italy, and she is known as the Dream Forager on social media. Thank you, Micol, for being here. Let's start with knowing you as a person and also your journey up until now.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here today. Thank you so much for tuning in. My journey was a long one before getting here. I have always been quite fascinated with dreams, but I've never had those crazy, epic, lucid dreams. That was not me. I would have very mundane, run of the mill, working, just doing regular things. However, I was always fascinated with them. Why were we spending so much time dreaming and sleeping, and what are the reason for these experiences that we're having during our sleep? And it wasn't until about 2016, so about 10 years ago, that I was gifted this book called The Secret History of Dreaming by Robert Moss. In the book, the author describes different scientific realizations as well as artistic creations that came through dreams. So, for example, the song Yesterday from the Beatles, the invention of the sewing machine, as well as Google's algorithm, all came from dreams, which got me even more excited and interested. What if I had the ability to have a similar experience? So, while I was curious about all of this, I would try to go on Google and as well as using dream dictionaries, but nothing ever really stuck to me. Nothing really ever made sense. I was like, I don't really understand how the black cat means this. It doesn't really apply to my life. I nothing was really clicking for me. It wasn't until I went to the University of Gastronomic Science and Cultures here in Italy where we started studying foods from different angles. So I'm not a chef, but I have an understanding of food as something that is really important for humans. We studied different subjects relating to food. So food sciences, food sociology, food ethnobotany, so many different aspects of food, all surrounding it. And so thanks to this course, I started questioning, well, if food is so important for our life, I'm sure there has to be a certain effect that it has on the way that we sleep and the way that we dream. And so I decided to create my dissertation on this topic. So it's called The Gastronomy of Dreams: How Food Can Affect Altered States of Consciousness. And this took me through a huge, long rabbit hole, connecting me more deeper with plants, with dreams. And after I graduated, I really felt the call to understand my dreams more fully. So I started looking around for ways to interpret dreams, way to analyze dreams, really trying to understand them more. And I stumbled upon a free webinar by the Dream Star Institute with Dr. Sparrow. He was presenting his new work. He uses a methodology called the 5-star method, which is based on a co-creative dream paradigm. So I always thought that dreams were something that were happening to me. It was kind of like a movie that I'm sitting back watching, and this is happening to me. In this theory, dreams are actually unfolding in real time as they're happening, and you, the dreamer, is taking decisions and actions within the dream as the dream is unfolding. And therefore, the dream is giving you different information as you decide to do something. And that completely blew my mind. So much so that 2 nights after this webinar, I had my reoccurring nightmare. In this nightmare, I would find myself in an elevator, and the elevator would just come crashing down, and I would find myself in a corner and just have this experience of falling and waking myself up because of the emotional toll of it all. And I just couldn't understand why this was happening to me. Why was I experiencing this repeatedly so many times? And so 2 nights after the webinar, I had this nightmare. And for the first time, I did something different. I began touching the buttons of the elevator, pressing them really strongly. The elevator still crashed. I still woke up, but I had this feeling that something had changed. I felt like I was finally in control of the situation, and I was able to change somewhat the outcome of the experience. I haven't had that nightmare in over 3 years.
Wow.
So I feel like I've really overcome something huge, and I've decided to make this part of my life's work is bringing this methodology out to as many people as possible because I know it's such a hard thing to be living and experiencing these reoccurring dreams, these recurring nightmares, and just wanting to find a bridge to really connect the two things. And through the studying with Dr. Sparrow, I came to understand more fully that when you're first starting off with dreams, at least this was my own experience, lucid dreaming is seen as the holy grail of dreaming. This is what you want to do. You want to be lucid because you want to be controlling the dream. What I found interesting when studying with Dr. Sparrow is that, well, first off, in 2021, there was a study that talked about how lucid dreaming could be utilized to treat depression, and individuals are able to rewire negative thought patterns, empower the self, and introduce new skills in waking life through lucid dreaming. However, in 2010, there was another super interesting research that really changed my perspective on everything. Lucid dreaming is no longer seen as an on off switch. So when you find yourself in a dream and you're lucid, it's not like it turns on and then you're back off and you're not lucid again, or vice versa. Lucid dreaming is actually on a spectrum, meaning that you can have different degrees of awareness inside the dream without fully realizing, hey, this is a dream. And so even people that our non lucid dreamers can have moments of reflection inside of the dream, self monitoring, and questioning what is happening. So I truly believe that this is what happened to me inside the dream. And so connecting the dots with these two things, we can utilize even regular dreams. So even people that don't lucid dream can really empower themselves. They can really introduce new skills in their waking lives, and they can change the repetitive thought patterns that they might have created in their subconscious.
Very fascinating. So you mentioned about this nightmare that stopped coming back after you took an action, right? You did something different. So before you had that dream, did anything, yes, you had the knowledge from, that webinar. And but did you do anything different before falling asleep?
Absolutely not. It was just
Okay.
the awareness, just something shift in my consciousness, and I realized that I had power. I had agency. I could change the things that were happening to me, and I am not a passive onlooker to what is going on around me. And I think that is just such a powerful experience and knowledge that can be translated also to my waking life. That whole experience has shifted my perspective and my way of living my life. I no longer do the things that I was doing before, working at dead end jobs and not feeling satisfied with my life just because I had that dream and I had the realization that I am powerful and I am able to change my destiny if so I choose. And so that is what
Beautiful.
I'm trying to convey to other people as well that might be feeling stuck in their own life and feeling like they're they're just a passive onlooker. There is so much more, and I think there's a really interesting concept from yoga called the samskara, and this concept is imagine yourself on a hill with a sled, and as you are going down the hill and sliding down the hill, you create a groove in the path. When you go back up the hill, take the same path, the groove gets deeper and deeper and deeper every time that you go down the same hill and the same path. And so, as we are living life and having experiences and moving within the world, we take those steps that we know are comfortable, that we have done before, and this continues to create a deeper groove in the path that we're taking. And we know that this path is safe. This is the path that we've always taken and it works, and so on and so forth. So we keep going. And so the power of dream work, the power of yoga nidra and practices of this sort is that we're able to create a new groove, create a new way of perceiving, and create a new way of living that maybe we realize that is possible in the back of our head, but we don't actually take the steps to doing so. So, a lot of the work that I do, especially in dream work, is looking at the patterns of behavior within the dream. I find that very often when we talk to different dream workers or when we go and look at dreams just in general, we look dreams as a single instance. This is the dream that happened, and this is that, and period. What I like to do is actually look at the dreams as a continuum. The dreams are evolving as you are evolving in waking life as well. And so the beauty of it is starting to notice those patterns of behavior in your dreams, because those very often will translate to the patterns of behavior in your waking life as well. So if you always run away from hard conversations or conflict or anything of that sort, you run away from things that you fear. That is probably something that you're doing in waking life as well, and something that you're doing in the dream space as well. So sometimes in waking life, we have a hard time noticing our patterns because we're in it. You know, we're always doing the same thing. We're in that groove, we're going down that hill, and we don't realize that that is something that we're actually doing. And so through the dream work, it actually takes us out of that daily mundane groove setting. And it also has such a creative way of showing us the things that we do. And so we can start seeing, oh, wait a minute. I do run away from problems all the time. I don't speak my truth. I hold myself back. And so the dreams actually become a practice ground for you to try those behaviors that are hard and that you feel that you might not be able to do. And so things like speaking up in a dream, you know, responding to someone that might be an authority figure within the dream itself, things of that nature, when you practice those in the dream space, they become easier to do then in your waking life.
Absolutely. I relate so much to what you just said because One of the dreams that I had since childhood was waking up and knowing that I'm late for an examination, not getting there on time, or knowing that I'm sitting for the wrong exam, right? I've prepared for something else. Now this is been stuck in my nervous system even after, I stopped being a student. I've progressed so much in life. This dream just keeps coming again and again. I don't exactly remember of a particular action or something that I did, but I remember in the dream I am running because the examination has already started and I'm not prepared and I'm running. And I could feel that physical exhaustion in the dream. And I stop. So I'm there with my parents and I stop running. I'm telling them in the dream that, I'm not going to run anymore. It's fine if I miss out an examination, right? It's okay. It's too tiring, right? It's okay. And so this was something where I felt really liberated and empowered because this has been haunting me since childhood. And it's also silly for an adult to be scared of an examination. So I just completely relate when you said that it is a practice ground, and if we were to meaningfully look at it that way, then things can really change, or you'll be aware of the progress you made. It's also that way, right? I mean, you don't understand your journey, you don't understand the progress that you've made, but if you don't realize that and you see some progression in your dreams, it's you're doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all little building blocks that really take us to where we want to be. It's small steps at a time. I find that these days we're so easily bombarded from information and these quick fixes, like do this and you'll have that in, 10 minutes. And it's like the body, the mind, the soul, we take time. We're part of nature. We take time to do things and to grow. And, you can't expect a flower to bloom overnight. It just takes time to get there. So, really honoring that and giving ourselves some grace in the process. And I really do believe that having dreams as a constant companion to notice your progress and notice the shifts that you are making. It will make it easier for you to see where you are or even just bring awareness to what you're experiencing right now. It doesn't always have to be this big dramatic nightmare or big shift. Sometimes like the smallest little detail in the dream can show you how far you've come, how much has changed, and sometimes it's also lovely to notice the beauty of it all, like the mystery of what is this that I am experiencing and just acknowledging it, being thankful for it. And yeah, we don't always have to go in and analyze and, pick it apart. Sometimes it's just like, "Oh, that was fun. I had a interesting experience in my dream last night," and just let it be what it is. But sometimes we do have those big, powerful experiences that it's lovely to dive deeper into.
How has your dreams changed ever since you started working on it? Is there like a progression to dream work? For me personally, ever since I've been on the spiritual journey, dreams seem a little different. Like, for example, working with spiritual guides. For me, in the dreams, I have actively started noticing guides being there, and they work with issues that in real life that I'm trying to solve. So I feel like, they're taking on roles, they're bringing in characters from my own life to take me through different scenarios as I'm, working on something in real life.
Well, there's different types of dreams, of course, and everyone has experiences of dreaming that can vary so much from one to another. I would say the majority of the people that I've been working with recently have fairly typical dreams. And a lot of times I will be working with people that are experiencing nightmares or repetitive dreams. So that's mainly the theme that I've been working with as of recently. I personally have been having a really interesting experience as of recently. I started doing what are called plant dietas. So it comes from a tradition in the Amazon. So it's linked to typically consuming ayahuasca or psychedelics plants. And basically, you diet very strictly. You don't have any salt, you don't have any caffeine, no sugar, no red meat. You abstain from sexual pleasure and you consume the plant on a regular basis. And of course, there are different degrees of intensity of all of this. You can be in the jungle by yourself doing this, or you can do something what is called like a social dieta, which is what I was doing right now, which is basically living your life, but having kind of these stricter restrictions. And so throughout the process, you spend time with the plant by drinking the tea in the morning, taking tinctures, reflecting on the plant, taking times to meditate with the plants. And I must say, I've had a really interesting dream journey with this. And I became fascinated with this type of work still when I was writing my dissertation, because I discovered that not only was this being used in South America, but there were women in Europe that were taking this tradition and utilizing it themselves to get closer to the local flora. So I ended up interviewing different women that are doing this in Europe. One of them is focused on doing diets with rose. Another one does diets with birch. And so just like getting closer to the plants that are here and local to us. And so I decided to continue this work or try this work for myself. I've done different rose dietas. I've worked with valerian as well. And right now, I just closed off a dieta with rosemary. And so when you're doing this type of work, kind of similar to what you were talking about, you do have the spirit of the plant coming in and giving you some insights on what is happening in your life. Some people also receive songs. Like it's just creating a beautiful relationship between yourself and the plant, or between yourself and the spirit. And it's been really, really fascinating. Rosemary is connected to memory, to clarity, to vision. And it's just been really interesting how much of those themes have actually been coming up in my in my dreams and my waking life as well. I've had lots of dreams just reconnecting to my younger self, my teenage self, my early 20s self, the person that was a little bit more carefree, and these are just like very subtle messages, but they can really shift your perspective on how you're living, and just the clarity of where I'm headed and this work that I'm doing and how important it is and how meaningful it is to me, and how I really want to share this work with other people in the world. So, yes, not so much of the more esoteric astral traveling, but I don't know. I feel like somehow my work feels a little bit more grounded in the day-to-day dreaming, the kind of like the boring dreams. That feels like where my focus is right now. I'm totally open to trying some of those more, I don't even want to say advanced, because I don't believe there's, different tiers of
Yeah,
dreaming. All dreaming is important.
yeah.
But yeah, I haven't had direct experiences with those different experiences of dream, but I am still finding different ways of relating to the dream space.
Huh.
And so my work actually is directing towards holding plant dietas with oniric plants. And these are plants that are specifically geared towards creating more vivid dreams, and are found to come into the dream world with more ease. So some examples of this are rosemary, mugwort, sweet gale, blue lotus. There is quite a few of those. And so the idea is to do this work with the plants, reconnect with nature, finding our own cycles, our own truth with these plant allies, and using the dream world as a theater, let's say, of communication, like a playroom for us to have these sort of experiences with other spirits.
What would you recommend for someone who can't remember their dreams and they're thinking that they're not dreaming?
I love this question because I like to make the example of, if you have a friend and you try to call the friend and the friend doesn't answer, and you try to call again and the friend doesn't answer, doesn't text back. doesn't reply at all, how long are you going to keep trying to call them? And I think this is the same with dreams. How many times have dreams tried to come to you, but you haven't given them any attention? And so, like any relationship, it takes time to build up. And creating that want is just a big way to start the relationship. So just knowing I want to start working with dreams, I find my dreams to be important, and starting to take those steps to show that this is actually what you mean. So, for example, having a dream journal by your bedside, going to bed and giving yourself the intention, I will remember my dream in the morning, giving yourself some space before you have to get out of bed to kind of be in that hypnopompic state of mind where you're in between waking and dreaming to really kind of feel in what has happened throughout the night. And starting to jot down even the smallest detail that comes to you, whether that is a color, whether that is a feeling, whether that's an emotion, just a quick image, whatever that is, try to make it a little bit more tangible by noting it down in your notebook. I know for me also, I struggle with handwriting my dreams. It's a very time consuming process. And so, as much as I romanticize it and I think it's absolutely beautiful and wonderful, I also live in a world where I have limited amount of time to do all these things. So I understand the struggle. So I discovered this app called Elsewhere that is a wonderful dream app. And it w is really cool because it allows you to voice record your dreams. So rather than having to sit there and write them out or type them out, you can just sit there with your eyes closed and go through the dream itself. And what makes it even more fun is that it's a bit gamified in the sense that it has symbols that you can collect. And so it keeps you like curious and guessing, like, how where am I gonna find this thing? And I wonder if I'll dream of this. And, it gets you a little bit more excited about the dream process. And it's a great way to create overall reflection on, I've dreamt about cars 57 times last year, or shoes showed up in my dreams 92 times. What is this about? So but most importantly, I would say just really creating that relationship, knowing that it takes time. You can't make a best friend overnight. And this is the same thing with dreams. Like it takes a little bit of time. So be patient. Also, there are some supplements that you can take to kind of help bolster some of the dreams. For example, just taking some magnesium can help you fall asleep and remain asleep. And then, as I was talking about earlier, also plant supplements. Of course, always check with your doctor, but things like rosemary helps with memory and having clear dreams. So, that is something that you can, have a cup of tea in the evening and really setting that environment before you go to bed to create that space of welcoming in the dream space to come into you.
Have you noticed the connection between food and dreams?
Yes, thank
Right?
you.
I think it's also common in the population. If you take a nap after lunch, I've got the most vivid dreams in my afternoon naps. Same way, let's say we wake up in the morning, you want to use the bathroom, you come back and you sleep, you get the most vivid dreams.
Mhm. Yeah, so diets have a really big influence on the way that we sleep and the way that we dream. So, generally speaking, having a diet that is based in organic food has been found to actually trigger more vivid dreams and as well as dream recall. Things that you would want to avoid are fast food, really processed foods, because those do mess up with your dream recall and the dream vividness. There are, of course, other things that can also help you boost the dreams, like having the Mediterranean diet and a DASH diet, which is a low sodium diet, have also been found to trigger dream spaces. So those are some things that I would look at. Trying to have a clean diet as much as possible will help you remember those dreams. As far as the naps, and also I've heard of people having really big, crazy dreams after like a big meal. And so that is actually triggered from insulin levels rising right after you eat and causing you to get really sleepy and causing the REM cycle of your sleep to happen quicker and more intensely in the first part of your sleep. And that is why you have these like really intense dreams. And also, when you are taking naps throughout the day, the REM cycle will happen quicker because your body is trying to make that happen. And that is typically when the dreams happen, is during the REM stage. This is not always, but typically that's where you will find the dreams. It's also interesting that spicy foods and I've heard people have an experience with peppers, red peppers. I haven't personally, I don't actually eat them, but I've heard of a lot of people eating peppers and having really vivid, intense dreams because of them. And so this is because your temperature rises and it causes you to have these really intense dreams. So there's like a lot of factors that go in, and everyone is a little bit different. So, red peppers maybe don't work for me, but they work for you. So you kind of have to find that like sweet spot for yourself. But yeah, generally speaking, with the insulin and the high carb diets, that's when, you will have those dreams more at the beginning stages of your sleep. But also just know that with this type of diet, your deeper sleep, the sleep that is actually healing for you, it does get disrupted. And this is the same with alcohol. You will have the alcohol, you might have some crazy dreams at the beginning of the night, but then it disrupts the deeper healing sleep that you actually need to repair your body. So
Mm.
just keep those things in mind. Don't overdose on carbs and go eat all the pizza tonight or lasagna.
In the name of experimentation, do
Yeah.
not get into any harsh diets. That's interesting.
Mhm.
Someone, let's say, who is maintaining a dream journal, how do they start understanding the dreams? I've heard people say trace back or try to remember how you were feeling in the dream versus how you were acting, the same way that something is in your subconscious, but consciously you're choosing to act differently. How do they try to make sense of it?
Yeah, so there are, of course, different ways to approach dreams and dream work in general. The way that I've been doing it and that I find that has been the more helpful for me is, well, first of all, writing your dream down in the first person present tense as if it was happening in the moment. So I am walking down the street. I see Sue's on the other side of the street, and so on. This is because when you are trying to work with the dream, it will help you find yourself in the dream space again. So it'll make it a little bit easier for you to embody. And then if you are working with someone, having the person hear you speak it out as if it was something that was actually happening will actually help the person that is the dream worker help you work with the dream with a little bit more ease. So I would say that is the first point. Secondly, when you are noting down your dreams, I suggest writing both the emotions as well as the actions as much as possible. So I walked down the street, I was feeling angry, and I continue walking down and whatever, just making sure that you have a good balance between those two things because it can really help you understand really the entire texture of what is happening and what you were feeling and get you a little bit closer as to why that maybe was happening. As far as the type of dream work that I work with, I find that one of the biggest points that really has people be like, wow, oh, I understand now, is using what Dr. Sparrow calls the process narrative. The process narrative is distilling down the dream into a few sentences really trying to get into the core of what is happening within the dream. And so by having this really the stilled version of the dream, you are actually able to see the parallels more quickly to what is happening into your waking life. The third step of the process is the image change analysis. So this is where we go in and we actually look at you as the dreamer have different moments within the dream where you are making choices. You are choosing to get on that elevator. You are deciding to go talk to Suze on the other side of the street, whatever that might be. You are deciding to act a certain way. So it's kind of breaking down those moments within the dream and understanding like, is this something that I would typically do? And if I found myself in the dream, is there a way, would I act any differently? Would I like to try something different?
Right.
And then we can go, of course, into like deeper experimentation with like re entering the dream and trying that actually out and kind of trying to understand what could happen if you did take those actions. But I think having these two things as something to keep in mind as you are reflecting on your dreams can give you like a greater perspective of what is happening. And as far as the images, of course, those are important and they're part of the process that I utilize, but it's something that comes a little bit later on. But you see right away the things that stick out. So even in like your dream journal, you can make a note. This was like really vivid. I recall these shoes being really colorful and just like they really stuck out because there are some other processes that you can use, like embodying those objects or people and kind of seeing what they have to say to you. And so really feeling into, what the object is, describing yourself as the object and kind of asking yourself questions as general as like, what do you feel? What do you want? And kind of see what spontaneously happens when you have these questions. You'd be surprised at the things that come out. I've embodied clothes before. I had a person during one of my dream group sessions embody a crow, and another person last week was embodying like a mummy. And it's just really fascinating to see the things that come out from these symbols. But yeah, I would say generally these are the three bigger things that I would look at as you're starting your dream journal series is looking at the process narrative. And you can find all of this information on the Dream Start Institute website. And I'm also happy to answer any questions. But yeah, starting off with the process narrative, understanding, trying to really shorten that dream into like a concise phrase and action based and emotion based summary of the dream itself, then looking at your patterns of behavior, how are you acting within the dream, and then also the dream imagery. So it's like this gives you a good roundabout to look at dreams, and then you can start comparing, like, oh, wait, I dreamt about shoes 2 weeks ago, and start collecting those objects along the way and seeing how these interact with each other and throughout the process and throughout the length of, your whole dream life.
When you say embody an object, you gave some examples about embodying a crow or, embodying a mummy. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's finding a meditative state of mind. So you could do a couple breaths beforehand, just closing your eyes and really trying to come into the body. And then beginning to describe yourself as that item. So, for example, I am a mummy and my skin is really dry and brittle. I am laying on the floor and I am inside a casket, and so on. And you just continue. And then you can also begin to describe the things that you see from that point of view
Interesting.
to really help you enter into that space. Once you're
Right.
there, you can start asking yourself questions like, what do you want? How do you feel? And see what comes out naturally. Don't force it. And, it happens. It really does. Like, try it out for yourself. It is quite amazing. But you will be really, really fascinated by the things that come out. Once you have a few responses, you can come back and embody yourself as the dreamer receiving this information. So just take a few breaths again, find yourself as the dreaming person, the dream ego, and ask yourself the same questions or see if you have anything that you would like to reply to get a little bit more information from whatever that image that you are embodying or wanting to communicate with.
How can engaging in somatic practices or yoga nidra help in dream work?
hmm Yeah, so the body, of course, plays a huge role in what we experience. The body houses the emotions, and the emotions like work with the brain and the dreams. So understanding that it's a full channel and it's everything is connected with one another. I find Yoga Nidra to be such a wonderful space to practice in. And this can also be helpful for people that are trying to reconnect with the dream space because what Yoga Nidra does is drop our brain waves to those same brain waves that occur during the dream state. Similar, like, not all of them, like, there's some deeper, brave brain waves that do not happen during dreams and a yoga nidra, but anyway, they can be very similar, and it allows us to break into the hypnagogic and the hypnopompic space. That one's always so hard to say. And these are the moments in which you're about to fall asleep and the moments in which you are coming out of that sleep phase. But ideally, when you are practicing yoga nidra, you do want to be in that hypnagogic state of being. So you don't really necessarily want to fall asleep. Like, it's okay if you do. That means your body actually needs the rest. But you really want to be in that in between liminal space, just surfing the waves. And so when you're there are, of course, different practices to get you in the state, but Yoga Nidra, for those that don't know, translates to yogic sleep. And it's a meditation practice that utilizes the same way that the body falls asleep in order to enter into a meditative state. And so different practices are utilized, breath work, just really easing, coming into that parasympathetic nervous system and doing a full body scan. So again, here the role of the body is super important. And then kind of entering into that in between state where you can start playing with different sensations of heaviness or lightness, coldness or hot, and playing in between. And then those moments of silence, which can feel like really long, but they're actually just like 1 or 2 minutes long at the most, can be that beautiful space of surfing in between and getting some more messages coming in, more insights from your own higher self. I created a yoga nidra for creativity a little while back, and it's been really wonderful to hear the experience of people doing that practice because yoga nidra, as well as dream work, is really connected to creativity. And another thing that I want to mention is the importance of bringing the dream forward because very often we'll have the dream, we'll take a look at it and then be like, "Oh, okay, cool. That was fun." But there's so much more that can be done, and that is actually the part of bringing the dream within the body. And so how can you honor the dream? This is like the part that I do at the end of every dream session that I have is really trying to move the dream forward, like honor the dream. Because as you start doing that too, you find that more dreams come because it's actually kind of like you playing tennis, you're serving, the dream serves you, and then you reply by actually doing something in return. And so one of the things that is really helpful in bringing the dream forward is doing something that has to do with creativity. So whether that is drawing the dream that you just had or like taking a theme from the dream and like putting that on paper. I don't know. There are like so many ways to be creative, and you don't have to be an artist, although I believe that everyone is an artist in one way or another, in the way that you dress, and the way that you plate your food, and the way that you just do any mundane thing. Like that is creation in its own sense. Once you do have dreams, is one of the easiest ways to honor the dream is doing something creative with it. And so creating a piece of artwork, or, you dreamt of having bananas. And so going and having that banana, or maybe like, creating a dish with it, and like really taking some time to honor the dream itself and having that moment of creation and reciprocity with the dream.
Can you share some interesting stories or interesting dreams that was decoded?
Yes, of course, there's a lot of interesting dreams. One that really stuck with me that came up recently was a client that had a dream about finding a black crow in her living room. And she was trying to get it out, but she was scared of it. But she was still trying to have compassion towards it and trying to get it out so it could be in a space that it felt comfortable for the crow itself. And so through working through the process and doing the what I call the dream illumination process, which is where you actually go in and embody certain dream personas or dream objects, she worked as the crow, and she actually realized that the crow was scared as much as she was scared as well. And so she was able to offer the crow a lot of compassion, and the crow ended up replying like, "I'm scared too, and it's okay, but you don't need to be scared." And so this was just like such a beautiful resolution at the end of the Dreamwork session, and really uplifted. It was a dream group, so we had a few other people in the session as well. And it was just like such an uplifting moment. And there's just so many of these within the dream space. And it's so funny because like she didn't even realize like that is what the dream was trying to tell her. And like she didn't- it was just like such a sweet moment within the session itself. And there's just so many of these moments that happen in which you just feel this like really everything is coming back to love. Very often, more often than not, the nightmares that we have are actually trying to show us a way back to loving ourselves, back to loving each other, and just, yeah, just having this feeling of togetherness. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And yeah, very often, as I was saying, like it does happen with nightmares as well, where, we're fearful and we run away. But really, it's like sometimes just facing the thing that we're running away from actually shows us that it also needs some love and it's also scared. And yeah, so creating these pockets of reflection can be super helpful. And I definitely want to point out how group dream work is absolutely amazing. I would love to share the story in which I have, a small dream group. We get together once a month and we talk about different dreams. And so it was interesting. Like some people didn't really know each other before the dream group sessions. And there was one participant who had this really intense fear of singing and finding herself in these situations where she had to be in front of people, and particularly linked around singing. She really enjoyed singing, but she had a hard time doing so in front of people. She felt really embarrassed and really scared from it. And so this came up a lot in her dreams. It definitely showed like something that, she felt like her dream self wanted to express, but that she couldn't. And anyway, there was a big struggle there. but the power of community came in, and a few sessions in, some progress was made, and another participant in the dream group reached out to her and let her know that there was a friend of hers that needed a recording of a song. Um, and I forget all the details of it, but anyway, she reached out. The participant who was having this fear of singing ended up saying yes. And so she did this process, and now, like, this must be almost a year now since we first started doing these dream groups. Now she's out singing and,
Wow.
posting on Instagram and doing a thing. And so, like, when we find these spaces to share parts of us that can also feel really vulnerable and really intimate, like dreams, there is a sense of magic that can happen and a sense of community and being there for one another that, maybe having a conversation that you normally have on the street can't really take you there, but the dreams can really harness that weird power to, yeah, bring us back closer to one another. And this is something that used to happen a lot, before modern life. People would sit around the fire and talk about their dreams and, like, really spend time seeing them not only as, like, a personal experience, but also as a collective experience. And so I'm hoping that that will come back soon and that more people get interested in this sort of work, because it can really change your life, and and what you think is just a silly dream can really just shift your entire perspective on life and really change the way that you're living for the better.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful, the power of community, right? Coming together, and it's such a safe container to be vulnerable, especially with something as
Mhm.
personal as dreams. And it's beautiful. And it just makes me
Mhm.
happy to hear about that.
Yes. Thank you.
I think I've heard Mind Valley founder Vishen talk about it. There is a tribe that communicates through dreams. They have shared dreams and they communicate through that. Have you explored that area, like two people having a common dream or sharing a dream?
I haven't personally, but I have heard about this happening, so I am super curious to see, how that develops for me as well, but I certainly believe that. I've had a friend actually that was telling me about this dream. It was kind of a recurring dream where he would find himself in a similar space, and he wrote about it beautifully, but he would find himself, I think it was like some exotic place like the Bahamas or something, and he would find himself in this store with wooden objects that were hand carved, and he would be talking to the owner of the space, and they were friends in the dream, and, like, they would see each other constantly. So I have no doubts that dreaming and having these sort of experiences is almost like us living a parallel life, and can be. There's just so many different types of dreams, and it's not necessarily that every dream you have is the same type of dream every night. The way you live and the way that you go about your day to day isn't always the same. So I think the same can be true for dreams. And dreams can really break down the barriers of what we think is real and bring us into another level of awareness and being. So I totally believe that it's possible. And I think there was recent research, maybe it was last year, that was actually showing people being able to communicate in
Mm,
dreams. I think it was people that were actually lucid. So the frontiers of dreams, I feel like, are endless, and we're just starting to understand now. And I'm so excited to see that there are more people that are interested in this sort of work, because it can really be super life changing for all of us if we give it a chance to.
I've had a couple of instances, but with my son, who's 3 years old, and this happened when he was much younger. So as soon as I have a dream, and maybe he's not there in the dream, and sometimes he was there, but he wakes up saying the exact thing that happened in my dream. So because he couldn't express so much, like, and the minute I ask him, he's like he doesn't want to. talk about it more. It's almost he's in that wakeful in between stage when I'm
Mhm.
picking up from bed and then he says something and I'm like, oh my God, how did you know it was in my dream? It gave me a total, different perspective of dreaming and dream work.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful experience, and yeah, it's just crazy what we can do, and like
Yeah.
the way that we can connect with people beyond, our five senses. Like there is just so
Right.
much more out there that we have to understand. And what a lovely connection to have with your son.
Yeah.
you know, it's really, really profound. And I'm curious to see if that will continue to evolve throughout both of your lives.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm curious too.
I've heard of also women that have been pregnant and they've received messages from their unborn baby, and like there's just so much more that we can't even
Yeah.
comprehend, and it's
Yeah.
it's a magical world.
What are you excited about next and how can people work with you?
Mhm. Well, you can find me on social media as a dream forager. I mostly do a lot of my posts on Instagram, so you can find me there. I also am starting to work more with newsletters, so you can go to my website and sign up, or just send me a message on Instagram and say hello. And if you have any questions about anything related to dream and plants, I'd be super happy to answer and add you to the mailing list so you can keep in touch. As far as my upcoming work, I am super excited as I was mentioning earlier, I am doing this rosemary plant dieta, and I am working with the plant medicine people. And so by the end of March, I will be able to hold plant dietas myself. So the idea is by April or so to be launching a new program where I'll be guiding people through oniric plant dietas. So working with plants that are specifically geared towards dreams and doing dream work processes throughout the session. So I think it will be about a 6-week container where we will do different practices together, including yoga nidra, including dream work, including working with the plant itself to really dive deep and get some further insights from this whole process. Like I did this plant dieta for about 2.5 weeks and it's been mind blowing. So I'm just super excited to be able to hold that for other people as well. And I offer one-on-one dream sessions as well. So if you have a crazy dream and you want to figure out what it might mean, definitely come talk to me, and know that like I will never tell you what the dream means. I will help you I will ask questions and I will help you figure out, what this might be relating to, but the dream meaning always comes back to the dreamer. You're the one that decides what the dream means. And the other thing that I do offer is monthly dream groups as well. So it's a beautiful space for community. As we were talking about earlier, there's some amazing insights that happen. So yeah, come on in and, try it out and see the beauty of working with other people and sharing your dreams and get some insights on what might be happening.
Anything that you want to share with the world?
I would say start paying attention because there are a lot of courses out there. There's a lot of things that you can do, but really working with dreams is coming back to your own inner intelligence. And so when you start working to dream with dreams, healing becomes something that you can consciously and actively participate rather than try to outsource from someone else. And there is so much wisdom and so much insight that comes from this type of work that I really feel that it's just on another level of depth.
That's true. Thank you so much, Micol, for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you in this podcast.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you again.